Part 143. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1423. They have no leader, and the entire Fantasy Sky Dream clan is basically useless. Zhang Zizai can fully predict that in the future, when the peak Holy Dragon Mountain is besieged, there will not be a single Fantasy Sky Dream clan member. They will only flee and live their lives in trembling. This is the price they must pay, even if they are not the protagonists of the original war. The entire Fantasy Sky Dream clan is completely scattered. Zhang Zizai killed hundreds of people and destroyed hundreds of heavenly ways. His destructive power has grown again. He can completely absorb the destructive curse again. He himself does not know how strong he is now. When he turned around, the gods of the entire Living Spirit clan were scared away. They looked at Zhang Zizai in a daze and awe, especially the Living Spirit Xuanhuan, who had already hidden in the depths of the crowd and lowered her head and did not dare to look at Zhang Zizai. She knew that Zhang Zizai was stronger at this moment, and he knew that a peerless monster from the origin of the land had been born. Zhang Zizai looked at the Living Spirit Yuan Lord, who nodded, and the meaning was very clear. From now on, the Living Spirit Yuan clan is willing to follow you and fight for you. When the Living Spirit Yuan Lord said this, there was no voice of opposition from the entire Living Spirit Yuan clan. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Uncle is too polite. There is no such thing as following. I came here today just to ask for your help. Zhang Zizai smiled. People who go against the will of heaven but are not arrogant will always make people convinced, and he did not slap the Living Spirit Yuan Queen in the face again. After all, she is his aunt, and it is meaningless to argue with her. I'll be faster. To prevent the remaining 3 tribes from getting the news and speeding up the attack on Peak Holy Dragon Mountain, I'll return immediately. Uncle can just arrive with the gods. Don't forget to defend the World Tree of Living Beings. Understood. Okay, the Living Beings, Yuanzu said very straightforwardly. He would also leave some people to guard the World Tree of Living Beings. The rest of the people would immediately follow Zhang Zizai's footsteps and go to Peak Holy Dragon Mountain to help. After Zhang Zizai got a positive answer, he left immediately and disappeared between heaven and earth. After he disappeared, all the Living Beings Yuan clan dared to breathe and make a sound. Before they discussed Zhang Zizai's terrifyingness, the Living Beings Yuanzu gave the order directly. The Living Beings Yuanho will lead 100 people to activate the Living Beings Totem Guardian Array and open the array diagram. The rest of the people will follow me to Peak Holy Dragon Mountain. Do you have any objections? The Living Beings Yuanzu asked. No, everyone said in unison. The Living Beings Yuanho also breathed a sigh of relief. She finally didn't have to face Zhang Zizai anymore. In this way, the Living Beings Yuan Lord led more than 1,000 gods and the strongest team of the Living Beings Yuan clan to the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain. Tens of millions of years ago, they avoided the origin war, but this time, they could not avoid it. Zhang Zizai returned to the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain in advance. When he arrived, the remaining 3 peak races had not yet arrived. The Peak Holy Dragon Mountain was very quiet, but all living beings were ready for battle. Zhang Junjian and others were already welcoming Zhang Zizai's return. He went to the Living Beings Yuan clan, and no one knew the specific result. But when a group of people saw him returning alone without the Living Beings Yuan Lord, they couldn't help but imagine that he must have failed. Only failure would return alone. It's good that you are not injured. Ruohua was still a little relieved. She knew that it was difficult to get the Living Beings Yuan clan to participate in the war. They seemed to have done their best to give the Living Beings tree seeds. I was afraid that if they surrendered to the Fantasy Sky Dream clan, they would become weapons of the 4 peak races. Hey, why are you all so serious? Zhang Zizai came to them. He looked very good. When he came back, he had already opened the gate to the 3 realms. It doesn't matter if he doesn't agree. We can do it ourselves. Zhang Junjian hadn't finished speaking when Zhang Zizai interrupted him. He laughed dumbly and said, "What are you thinking about? Actually, my uncle is a good person. I'll go first." "They are on their way." "Really, how many people are there?" Ruohua and Ruoxiu asked in surprise. In fact, they really hope that their brother can help them at this time. "Almost all the gods are here." Zhang Zizai's words brought endless surprises to everyone. He didn't seem to be joking. This kind of thing can't be joked. They felt much more relaxed. Now they are more confident in facing the attacks of the four peak races. "How did you do it?" "It's not easy for him to make this decision, right?" Ruohua asked. In fact, the Living Spirit Yuan clan actually retreated, and for so many years, they did not bring out the Living Spirit tree seeds. She had long been very disappointed with her brother, so you can imagine how difficult it is to impress the Living Spirit Yuan Lord and make him come out in full force. It's not difficult. Kill the Huan Tianmeng Lord and everyone on the list in front of him, and the gods of the Living Spirit Yuan clan will be convinced. Zhang Zizai took out the list and gave it to Zhang Junjian. Every name on it was now dim, which meant that these people were dead. Zhang Junjian took it with trembling hands. He knew everyone on it. He remembered clearly how many sins they had committed. "Are they all dead?" He stared at Zhang Zizai, his eyes trembling slightly. Many gods of the Peak Dragon clan felt the same as him. "They are all dead." "One can escape," Zhang Zizai said. "Master Huan Tianmeng, is he dead?" Zhang Yunfan asked, a little lost his voice. This was an unexpected thing. "Of course he's dead." "Will the Master of Creatures still help you and join forces to kill her?" Zhang Yunyan asked tremblingly. "That's not true. If I don't kill Dream Master Huan Tian, they are unlikely to fight for us. It doesn't matter if others underestimate me. If you underestimate me no matter what, you are still no longer a relative, haha." Zhang Zizai laughed. This relaxed smile meant that everything he said was true. "I'm not looking down on you, brother. What you did was so shocking and surprising. We ordinary people still need some time to digest it," Zhang Junjian quickly reacted. In fact, he couldn't say anything else. He patted Zhang Zizai's shoulder deeply and smiled, showing his admiration for what Zhang Zizai had done at this moment. "With you, I believe that our ancestors and compatriots under Jiquan can truly rest in peace. Zizi, you have even broken through our imagination. You are very strong. I admire you," Zhang Junjian said seriously. "Come on, when you praise me, you're not praising yourselves. You didn't create me." Zhang Zizai smiled. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1424. They have no leader, and the entire Fantasy Sky Dream clan is basically useless. Zhang Zizai can fully predict that in the future, there will not be a single Fantasy Sky Dream clan member besieging the peak Holy Dragon Mountain. They will only flee and live their lives in trembling. This is the price they must pay, even if they are not the protagonists of the original war. The entire Fantasy Sky Dream clan is completely scattered. Zhang Zizai killed hundreds of people and destroyed hundreds of heavenly ways. His destructive power has grown again. He can completely absorb the destructive curse again. He himself does not know how strong he is now. When he turned around, the gods of the entire Living Spirit Yuan clan were scared away. They looked at Zhang Zizai in a daze and awe, especially the Living Spirit Yuan Ho, who had already hidden in the depths of the crowd and lowered her head and did not dare to look at Zhang Zizai. She knew that Zhang Zizai was stronger at this moment, and he knew that a peerless monster from the origin of the land had been born. Zhang Zizai looked at the Living Spirit Yuan Lord, who nodded, and the meaning was very clear. From now on, the Living Beings Yuan clan is willing to follow you and fight for you. When the Living Beings Yuan Lord said this, there was no voice of opposition from the entire Living Beings Yuan clan. "Uncle, you are too polite. There is no such thing as following. I came here today just to ask for your help," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. People who defy the will of heaven but are not arrogant will always make people convinced, and he did not slap the living being's UN Empress again. After all, she is his aunt, and it is meaningless to argue with her. I will be faster. In order to prevent the remaining 3 clans from getting the news and speeding up the attack on the peak Holy Dragon Mountain, I will return immediately. Uncle can arrive with the gods at will. Don't forget to defend the living being's world tree. Understood. Okay, the living being's UN Lord said very straightforwardly. He would also leave some people to guard the living being's world tree, and the rest of the people would immediately follow Zhang Zizai's footsteps and go to the peak Holy Dragon Mountain to help. After Zhang Zizai got a positive answer, he left immediately and disappeared between heaven and earth. After he disappeared, all the living beings dared to breathe and make a sound. Before they discussed Zhang Zizai's fear, the living beings Yuanzu gave a direct order. The living beings Yuanho led 100 people to activate the living beings totem protection array and open the array diagram. The rest of you, follow me to the peak Holy Dragon Mountain. Do you have any objections? The living beings Yuanzu asked. No, everyone said in unison. The living beings Yuanho also breathed a sigh of relief. She finally didn't have to face Zhang Zizai anymore. In this way, the living beings Yuanzu directly led more than 1,000 gods and the strongest team of the living beings Yuanzu to the peak Holy Dragon Mountain. Tens of millions of years ago, they avoided this origin war, but this time, they couldn't avoid it. Zhang Zizai returned to the peak Holy Dragon Mountain in advance. When he arrived, the remaining 3 peak races had not yet arrived. The peak Holy Dragon Mountain was very quiet, but including all living beings, they were ready for battle. Zhang Junjian and his men were already welcoming Zhang Zizai's return. He went to the Living Spirits clan, and no one knew what the specific outcome was. But when a group of people saw him return alone without the Living Spirits clan leader, they couldn't help but imagine that he must have failed. Only if he failed would he return alone. It's good that he wasn't injured. Ruohua was still a little relieved. She knew it was difficult to get the Living Spirits clan to join the war. They seemed to have done their best to give the Living Spirits tree seeds. I was afraid that if they surrendered to the Fantasy Sky Dream clan, they would become weapons of the 4 peak races. Hey, why are you all so serious? Zhang Zizai came to them. He looked very good. When he came back, he was already opening the door to the 3 realms. It doesn't matter if he doesn't agree, we will. Zhang Junjian hadn't finished speaking when Zhang Zizai interrupted him. He laughed dumbly and said, "What are you thinking about? Actually, my uncle is a good person. I'll go first." They are on the way. Really, how many people are there? Ruohua and Ruoxiu asked in surprise. In fact, they really hope that their brother can help them at such a time. Almost all the gods are here. Zhang Zizai's words brought endless surprises to everyone. He didn't seem to be joking. This kind of thing can't be joked. They felt much more relaxed. Now they are more confident in facing the attacks of the 4 peak races. How did you do it? It's not easy for him to make this decision, right? Ruohua asked. In fact, the Living Spirit UN clan actually retreated, and for so many years, they didn't take out the Living Spirit tree seeds. She was very disappointed with her brother, so you can imagine how difficult it is to impress the Living Spirit UN Lord and let him come out in full force. It's not difficult. Kill the Huan Tianmeng Lord and everyone on the list in front of him, and the gods of the Living Spirit UN clan will be convinced Zhang Zizai took out the list and gave it to Zhang Junjian. Every name on it is now dim, which means that these people are dead. Zhang Junjian took it tremblingly. He knew everyone on it. He remembered clearly how many sins they committed. All dead, he stared at Zhang Zizai, his eyes trembling slightly. Many peak dragon gods shared the same sentiment. All dead, no one could have escaped, Zhang Zizai said. Master Huan Tianmeng, dead, Zhang Yunfan asked a little incoherently. This was something he had not expected. Of course he is dead. Will the master of creatures still help you and join forces to kill her? Zhang Yunyan asked tremblingly. That's not true. If I don't kill Dream Master Huantian, they are unlikely to fight for us. It doesn't matter if others underestimate me. If you underestimate me no matter what, you are still no longer a relative, haha. Zhang Zizai laughed. This relaxed smile meant that everything he said was true. I'm not looking down on you, brother. What you did was so shocking and surprising. We ordinary people still need some time to digest it. Zhang Junjian quickly reacted. In fact, he couldn't say anything else. He patted Zhang Zizai's shoulder deeply and smiled, showing his admiration for what Zhang Zizai had done at this moment. With you, I believe that our ancestors and compatriots under Jiquan can truly rest in peace. Zizi, you have even broken through our imagination. You are very strong. I admire you, Zhang Junjian said seriously. Come on, when you praise me, you're not praising yourselves. You didn't create me, Zhang Zizai smiled. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1425. It's different, you have escaped our knowledge a long time ago, Zhang Junjian said with a smile. Now, the Huantian Dream Clan must be frightened. Our opponents only have 3 peak races left, and we have added the Shangling Yuan clan has more than 3,500 gods, using the peak Holy Dragon Mountain as its foundation to deal with 6,000 gods, and with you and uncle, we finally have real hope. Zhang Junjian's words are also for you. All the gods heard that before, they had to face nearly 8,000 gods, and it was impossible for them not to be worried, but now, they have truly seen incredible hope. Zhang Zizai, killed Huantian Menzu. This proves that the masters of the 4 peak races are also mortal. That's enough. Many people's faces looked much better, and they were full of hope. It was Zhang Zizai and Zhang Junjian who gave them extremely strong hope. To be honest, the power of all living beings, if displayed to the extreme, would be at least equivalent to the power of thousands of gods. Based on the peak of the Holy Dragon Mountain, they would be at least equivalent to the power of more than 4,000 gods. And the battle between the most defiant and powerful ones may also determine the outcome. In the current final decisive battle, the peak powerhouses of the Taishan Divine Realm are 3 against 3, and Zhang Zizai is definitely the biggest variable in it. He has opened the 3 realms, and everyone knows what he is going to do. This time, he has once again strengthened his power of destruction, so he has to return to the 3 realms to help his father absorb the curse of destruction. Go. Tell him the good news. Ruohua's eyes were gentle and she held his hand, her eyes full of love. Good. Everyone's eyes are fiery, and they are all compatriots and friends connected by blood. But now, the final war has arrived, and the life and death of the entire clan rests on their shoulders. Their responsibilities are heavy, and their blood is boiling. This battle is destined to bring death to an end. Zhang Zizai came to the 3rd level and reached the top level. In front of him was the endless white dragon. He was trapped in the black mist. He was still dying and unable to move, but now the fog is much less than before. Dad, I killed the Huantian Dream Master, and made all the people in the Huantian Dream Clan who had committed crimes pay the price with their lives. I also successfully convinced my uncle, the Living Soul Yuan Master, to let him take the clan with him. Come to Peak Holy Dragon Mountain to help us, we have hope in the final battle. He bowed before his father 3 times before standing up. Very good. Suddenly, his voice came from between heaven and earth, and Zhang Zizai knew that he was already in a deep sleep and slowly woke up. He heard what Zhang Zizai said, and there was still relaxation and joy in his voice. Zhang Yunhai, it should have been done long ago, he said softly. Yes. He didn't say much, but that was his brother. Zhang Zizai didn't know how sad he had been. Now that Zhang Yunhai is dead, all this is relieved. Zhang Zizai didn't understand Zhang Yunhai. He and his brother would never reach this point anyway. Love can suppress boring desires. Dad, I will continue to absorb these destructive curses, Zhang Zizai said. Okay, let's start. Remember, destruction is the opposite of the birth of heaven and earth. It is the most terrifying thing. It must be controlled. Otherwise, it will only bring about the destruction of heaven and earth, the annihilation of the universe, and the end of reincarnation. When you borrow the power of destruction, you must control it, otherwise the curse of destruction will dominate your will, and from now on, you will no longer be yourself, Zhang Yunting said. I remember Zhang Zizai deeply engraved these words in his heart. These are words that must never be forgotten. He understands the flower of destruction better than anyone else. It is a flower with barbs that can hurt others. You can also hurt yourself. He began to absorb the curse of destruction. This time, he killed more heavenly Dao, but except for Huan Tianmenzu and a few others, those heavenly Dao were not very strong, so their effectiveness was average. However, if they were more in number, they could produce changes and destroy heavenly Dao. The next growth was not as scary as it was at the beginning, so this time, in order to stay awake for future battles, he still focused on stability and did not exceed the limit. After the absorption and fusion was completed, he could still stay awake and did not need to let the 9 immortals come to him. I feel at peace. After taking a closer look, the remaining curse of destruction is about 2/5. This time's progress incorporates 1/5 of the curse of destruction. Although it is only 1/5, he is much stronger than before his return. Now, he is probably at the pinnacle of the world. Maybe the destructive power is not too much, but he is too restrained in the way of heaven. Among the remaining 3 peak races, those 3 are much more difficult to deal with than Huan Tian Dream Lord. Huan Tian Dream Lord can only assist them at most, but soul, time and space are the 3 strongest in this world. Heavenly Dao, as the masters of these 3 heavenly Dao, these 3 have been infinitely close to me. I can only defeat them by integrating heavenly Dao, so when facing them next, you must be careful. The primordial master of creatures and your brother are probably not any opponent among the 3 of them, so you have to shoulder the heavy responsibility. In addition, I remind you that the deceased soul master is definitely the most difficult to deal with. He has long been immortal and is infinitely close to me. His life and death cannot be judged by common sense. He has too many lives, so you must be careful when facing him, Zhang Yunting reminded. Zhang Zizai nodded again. He remembered these words deeply. He had known for a long time that the remaining 3 were definitely not simple, especially the soul master of the rebirth. He had killed too many peak dragons. If it weren't for Zhang Yunting, he might have been a legend in the land of origin. This time he was strengthened again, and he was stronger, but he also knew that the next battle was the ultimate battle and the future. After Zhang Yunting's instructions, the voice disappeared. He still needed to hold on until Zhang Zizai absorbed all the destruction curses before he could really return. And Zhang Zizai walked out of the 3 realms. When he appeared and returned, the team of the Living Spirit Yuan clan had arrived, and the Peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation had already been opened. All living beings were on guard, and all the gods had stepped onto the battlefield. The Living Spirit Yuan clan could come at this time, and they had already been as close as a family with the Peak Dragon clan. Zhang Zizai saw that the Living Spirit Yuan Lord and Ruohua and the others had already stood together. They should have met for a while, and the grievances in the past could finally be resolved at this time. After all, they are brothers and sisters. When Zhang Zizai came here, everyone's eyes were on him. Then, everyone laughed. I don't know why, he is very young, but at this moment, he is their backbone. As expected, the enemy is approaching. The shadow of ghosts is overwhelming. It's time to go to war. At that moment, the soldiers' blood boiled and their fighting spirit surged. Zhang Zizai killed the lord of Huantianmen and defeated the Huantianmen clan. This news has spread, and the whole Peak Shenglong mountain is excited. Hello, brothers and sisters. You should be able to see that the content of this book is almost done, and it will be finished soon. Crazy is also going to start preparing a new book. New story, new journey, new characters. Let me tell you first. To be honest, this type of fantasy, 3 books have written 20 million words, from 2012 to 2019, and it took 7 years to write. I am a little tired of writing. I think my talent should be more than that. For the new book, I want to write a completely new genre, a completely new story, and a completely new idea. To try fun that I have never tried before. After writing books for so many years, my biggest wish now is to break through myself and create a book with a different style from the previous ones. Keep my passion and enthusiasm. Make bold attempts and create a visual feast with my heart. I hope that my future self can give my friends a refreshing experience. I actually don't like the word fans because I don't have any fans. You are all my dearest readers. I respect all readers who can appreciate me very much. You are all my friends. I share the stories in my mind and hope that I will not let down everyone's love. I want to live up to my friends. Thank you, crazy brother. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1426. When the teams of these 3 peak races were still very far away, the peak Holy Dragon mountainside had already grasped their positions and made all preparations. Zhang Zizai's return was like a reassurance for everyone. He woke up in the 3rd realm, proving that he was more confident in controlling the power of destruction. In fact, they could all clearly experience the increase in destructive power. At this moment, Zhang Zizai was 3 points stronger than when he was fighting Huantian Dream Lord. Now, they have more than 3,000 gods from the Peak Dragon clan and the Soul Yuan clan gathered together. Brother Zhang Zizai and the Soul Yuan Lord are their backbone. The backbone has a strong spirit. Although the current lineup is at a disadvantage, the gods have not flinched and are not much afraid. After all, Zhang Zizai has left such a deep impression on them. As for the sentient beings of the Peak Dragon clan, after so many years of humiliation, they have long since considered death as home. In the battle for the survival of the race, we naturally have to fight side by side and die together with you. This time when he came out, the god soul scanned all the living beings and found that their fighting spirit and eyes were completely different. Zhang Zizai came before his brother and the others. Zizi, my sister-in-law gave us an idea, which we think is very good. Let her tell you about it, Zhang Junjian said seriously. Before the war, basically everyone was solemn. It's Tianji's horse racing, right? Zhang Zizai asked. The 9 Immortals had told him about this method before, and he knew it well. At present, on the enemy side, the Reborn Soul Lord is definitely the most difficult to deal with, while the Time Beast Lord and the Void Beast Lord are about the same. Regardless of other elements, the Time Beast Lord and the Void Beast Lord are also more difficult to deal with than Zhang Junjian and the Living Soul Lord. Of course, coupled with the geographical advantage here, that is, the Peak Holy Dragon is guarding you, it will not be so easy for the Time Beast Lord and the Void Beast Lord to take down the 2 of them. The battles at your top level will definitely affect the trend of the war. It's the story of Amadaji's horse racing that I mentioned, but the situation is slightly different. I use simple numbers to roughly represent the difference between their strengths and weaknesses. 9 Immortals coming from another world, she is very knowledgeable. With everyone watching, she continued, suppose the combat power of the deceased Soul Master is 5. Then Zhang Zizai plus the combat power of the Peak Holy Dragon Guardian Array is almost 5. Position the Time Beast Master and the Void Beast Master as 4. The 2 plus the peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation are probably around 3.5, right? Zhang Junjian nodded. She estimated it wouldn't be much different. After all, he is young, and with the peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation, he is indeed about 0.5 worse than those two. However, with this 0.5, it should be basically difficult to win over Zhang Junjian and the others. They are also strong, they even know what 0.5 means. We chose to put all the increases in the peak Holy Dragon Guardian array on the eldest brother. This way, the eldest brother will be difficult to kill. He has enough self-protection power. It is impossible for him to defeat the deceased Soul Master, but the deceased Soul Master mainly, it would take a lot of effort and time to break the peak Holy Dragon Guardian array and injure him. If ZZ can quickly defeat the Time Beast Master or the Void Beast Master at this time, just like he did when he defeated the Huantian Dream Lord, he will immediately support the others. With 2 people, we can have an advantage. Zhang Zizai probably understood. The Soul Master is responsible for entangling one. Originally, it was normal for Zhang Zizai to deal with the deceased Soul Master and Zhang Junjian to deal with the other one. However, it is said that the deceased Soul Master is difficult to kill. As a result, there may be no advantage in the 3 battlefields. The story of Tianji's horse racing is to use his low-grade horse against the opponent's high-grade horse, then his own high-grade horse against the enemy's medium-grade horse, and his own medium-grade horse against the enemy's low-grade horse. Although the circumstances are different, the principle is the same. That is to use the peak Holy Dragon Guardian array to protect Zhang Junjian, and then place the breakthrough point on Zhang Zizai's side. Once Zhang Zizai succeeds, they can directly take advantage. After all, Zhang Zizai has a precedent of quickly defeating Huan Tianmenzu. Although the Time Beast Master and the Void Beast Master are not Huan Tian Dream Masters, Zhang Zizai is stronger now than he was then. Brother, are you sure you can hold on? Zhang Zizai asked. Don't worry about this. I have fought with the Soul Master of the past. I am very familiar with his methods. Last time, it took several people to attack me before he could hit me hard. If all the increases in the peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation are on me, I can hold on for a while. It's not a problem at all, Zhang Junjian said. Since he is familiar with his opponent, he should be confident. Okay, then I will deal with the Void Beast Master directly. I must kill him directly, Zhang Zizai said. This is their plan, but it is not certain what changes will occur in this process and whether the other party will let them succeed as they wish. After all, the other party would not be unprepared for the Flower of Destruction. This time, the news that Zhang Zizai is the Flower of Destruction must have been leaked. There are countless traitors among the major races. He has already shown it in the Creature Yuan clan, which means there is no secret now. Just as they were discussing, the armies of the gods from the 3 peak races in the distance had landed directly on top of the peak Shenlong mountain. After hearing the news that Zhang Yunhai had died in battle and Zhang Junjian had returned, they directly sent out their troops, and the gods from the 3 directions rushed straight towards them. At the pinnacle of the Holy Dragon Mountain, the Huan Tianmeng clan arranged to bring in the living Yuan clan, with a thorough and rough plan. But when they rushed to the peak Holy Dragon Mountain, they never expected to receive the news that the Huantian Dream Lord had died in battle, the Huantian Dream clan was defeated, Zhang Zizai had risen, and the living Yuan clan had taken refuge with the Peak Dragon clan. Originally, it was a 5-on-1 war, but it became 3-on-2 in an instant. The Fantasy Sky Dream clan is out. Of course, even if it was 3-on-2, they were still in the advantage. Their desire for the Flower of Destruction would probably make them come even if it was 2-on-3. After all, the current Peak Dragon clan is not the supreme clan of the past, and Zhang Yunding does not exist at all now. They can definitely guess or find out about Zhang Yunding's current situation. The most important thing is that the Flower of Destruction appeared in the way of Zhang Zizai. For them, the shock caused is probably unprecedented. The three tribes that came now are actually beasts. Time beast, void beast and rebirth soul beast. Time, space, and soul are the three supreme heavenly ways in the universe, half of the origin flower. They gathered together and descended. A total of more than 6,000 heavenly gods pressed on the border, and the pressure brought was still very terrible. The aura of the three giant beasts descended, and the duel with the dragon and endless flowers, plants, and trees looked spectacular. When these gods all changed into their original bodies, it would be even more spectacular. 2,000 time beasts. 2,000 void beasts. 2,000 rebirth soul beasts. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1427. Here is a forest with more than 1,000 flowers and plants, towering trees, plus 2,000 dragons. These giant beasts and forests are existences that cover the sky and the sun. Their extremely huge bodies appear huge even in the void, rather than a small fight between jungles. Time beast, hidden in time, elusive. The void beast controls space and is everywhere. The soul beast of the past cannot even see its entity, and its whereabouts are unknown. Zhangzai's divine soul swept across these 6,000 beings in an instant. They had arrived in front of the peak Holy Dragon Mountain and stood in front of the peak Holy Dragon Guardian Array. They all had cold faces and cruel expressions. Such a scene, it will inevitably remind the peak dragons of that humiliating war. Many of the gods present survived that time, but many of their relatives and friends died on the spot. Nearly 3,000 gods lost their lives in that war. These are all blood feuds. They are all enemies that can be remembered for thousands of years. Now when I see these people, my eyes are already scarlet red with anger. This is not only a war for the strongest, but also a war for all gods, and it is a life and death war for all living beings. At this time, the three top figures, the perpetrators of the murder, appeared one after another. There were 3 people in total, all 3 were men, and only the Xuanhuan Dream Master was a woman. Among these 3 people, they are actually incompatible with each other. They have only stood together when facing the Peak Dragon clan. To be honest, in the subsequent competition for the Flower of Destruction, they will inevitably fight to the death. It is not certain who will win. Why are they still working together to deal with the Peak Dragon clan? Of course, it was the glory of the once supreme clan that scared them all. The Reborn Soul Master, the Time Beast Master and the Void Beast Master, the 3 great gods in the supreme heavenly realm, appeared in front of 6,000 people, staring at the Peak Dragon clan. The deceased Soul Master was a black-haired young man who looked very ordinary. There was nothing special about him. It was as if he was thrown into the crowd and no one would notice his existence. At that time, the Time Beast Lord had a pale complexion and was very sick. His body was thin and swaying between heaven and earth. His eyes were all pure white, and he could not see any sparkle. The Void Beast Master was tall and powerful, full of energy, tough and terrifying. His smooth head looked like a mirror, with endless worlds and spaces hidden inside, making people feel dizzy. Zhang Junjian looked at these 3 enemies with different eyes. Zhang Zizai also saw in the god talisman what kind of disaster they had brought to the Peak Dragon clan. The corpses of those divine dragons littered the fields, and their blood and broken limbs were everywhere between heaven and earth. In order to obtain the Flower of Destruction and to vent their jealousy towards the supreme clan, they showed no mercy at all to their compatriots who had died in battle. It was as if their innocent souls were still here, standing with Zhang Zizai and the others. Flower of Destruction, the deceased Soul Master spoke. His trembling voice focused on Zhang Zizai. He controlled the soul and heaven. His eyes were like endless whirlpools. When he spoke, he was the master of heaven and earth. The weirdest person among them, he is indeed much more difficult to deal with than Huan Tianmeng. Yes, it is the Flower of Destruction. It has turned into a human being, or in other words, merged with him. This person is Zhang Yunting's second son. Over the years, he has cultivated things to take revenge on us, the Void Beast Master said. Said expressionlessly. Master of the creatures UN, now that you have made your choice, the creatures UN clan will inevitably perish together with the Peak Dragon clan. You will suffer heavy losses and you will probably die too. This is your choice. You can't blame anyone. In the future, the world will be destroyed, the cards will be reshuffled, and nothing will happen to you. The place of origin is about to get a new look. It's always the same, which is not interesting, the Time Beast Lord said. The 6,000 gods all had strange and cold looks in their eyes, with contempt and scornful smiles. After all, they were the attackers. It was Zhang Zizai and the others who should feel fear at this time. Everyone, there is no need to say so much nonsense. It is meaningless. Today you are here to use your souls and flesh and blood to pay homage to the brothers who died here. You despicable and shameless cowards are not only good at coaxing people away from home. They are simply incompetent cowards. We, the Pinnacle Dragon clan, will always be the first clan in this place of origin, because we are upright, and you shameless evildoers will pay the price at this time, Zhang Junjian said in a gloomy voice. But it echoes between heaven and earth. He couldn't bear it anymore. All Peak Dragons obey orders. The enemy is in front, and have no fear of life or death. We have lost too much, been harmed by traitors, and endured too much pain and hardship, but we will one day stand up proudly, because they are the Pinnacle Dragon clan. We have the blood of pride and supremacy. Today we will take back everything we have lost. The blood we have shed will be drunk back from them today. This time, we are not alone. We have the help of all the gods of the Living Soul clan. We also have all our compatriots. We all stand together, we are one in life and death. Since ancient times, our Peak Dragon clan has never admitted defeat and has committed crimes. People, now it's time to pay the price. What should we do? Zhang Zizai asked the people. Kill them. Zhang Zizai really didn't want to talk to the other party anymore. He had a deep hatred and said that he couldn't explain clearly. If they met, he would just do it and kill him. There was too much nonsense and it was a waste of time. He doesn't want his enemy to live for a moment. At this time, the 4 words "kill them" shook the earth. When all living beings were roaring, when everyone's eyes were red and murderous, their power was integrated into the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain, and then they frantically urged the Peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation. For a time, the power of the Totem formation was unprecedented and at least 3 times stronger than the last time Zhang Yunhai controlled it. This is the power of revenge. It is the power of millions of people with one heart. It is also the power of faith. Zhang Zii gave them enough faith in their brothers. All living beings are lovely people. They also gave their brothers enough power. At this moment, part of these powers established the protection area of the Peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation to limit the opponent within the scope of the field, and the other part was all instilled into Zhang Junjian. At that moment, Zhang Junjian was shining with billions of rays of light. His body was shining brightly and shaking the earth. A white dragon rose into the sky. The snow-white dragon scales showed the appearance of billions of living beings. On each dragon scale, there were thousands of dragons. They contributed their power of hope for rejuvenation and brought an increase in Zhang Junjian, which was much stronger than Zhang Yunhai at the beginning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1428. Incarnate Soul Master, you shameless guy, as a senior, you actually besieged me with 3 Taishan gods. You are such a coward, such a waste, but do you have the courage to fight with me alone today to determine the winner? Zhang Junjian's provocative gaze was pointed at the deceased Soul clan. When his passionate words reverberated between heaven and earth, for a time, countless sentient beings in the entire peak Holy Dragon Mountain were equally excited. All living beings are sentient beings, they are not symbols. Each of them has his own story, his own thoughts, and his own relatives. When they all fight for their loved ones, when they all fight for their own life and death, when they all remember the bloody feud, when they all fight tooth and nail, Zhang Junjian at this time can be said to be ridiculously strong. Behind Zhang Junjian, more than 3,000 gods rose up and transformed into their own bodies. Within the scope of the peak Holy Dragon Guardian formation, they provoked their opponents. At least at this moment, their fear could not be seen. Behind them, there were the fears of all living beings. Support, among all living beings, countless god kings are also very terrifying powers. There were more gods on the other side. They were so provoked that of course they detonated directly. At this time, none of the three masters had given orders, but many of them showed their true bodies directly. Each one of them was fierce and ferocious, just waiting for the order from the three masters. Come on, they will rush in immediately and kill them all. At least so far, they can basically play 2 against 1, so what's there to be afraid of? The peak Holy Dragon Guardian array can at most be equivalent to 1,000 gods, so there are still more of them. Those huge time beasts, void beasts, and soul beasts of the past have already shown their ferocity in the void. Zhang Zizai and the living soul master had nothing. They were all by Zhang Junjian's side. When Zhang Junjian pointed at the reborn soul master, they looked at their opponents, Yu Juxian's idea. This surprised the three of them. They knew that these three must be the most difficult to deal with Zhang Zizai because he could kill Huantian Dream Master. However, facing such a situation, they didn't seem to care much because the Void Beast Master was ahead of schedule. In this case, I will deal with this flower of destruction first. If it is really difficult to deal with, I will also ask the Soul Master of the past to kill Zhang Junjian first, and then help me. The Time Beast Master will take down the Life Master, and it will not be a big problem. That's when we launch an all-out attack and completely kill these idiots. Poor these peak dragons, they really thought they were still the supreme clan, and they are still immersed in their former glory. It's ridiculous. Zhang Zizai is the flower of destruction. Although he is difficult to deal with, he is not afraid of taking risks. He tried Zhang Zizai's power first. If it doesn't work, he can still hide in front of such a helper. If he seizes the opportunity, he will make a lot of money. The deceased soul master didn't say anything, but it seemed that he didn't care about the enemy. In fact, it was obvious that he believed in his ability. No matter who he dealt with first, he could win, let alone Zhang Junjian. As for the Time Beast Master, it can be said that it is the safest to deal with the Creature Master. Although he did not agree, he was too lazy to object. Everything depends on the situation. It does not matter who the opponent is. With their strength, they can change their appearance and arrive in an instant. It's not difficult for anyone. The Void Beast Master wants to seize the opportunity, but they are all watching. The three of them must have their own secrets. However, before the fanatical Peak Dragon clan, their gods could no longer bear it. When the first person attacked without hearing the order, they could immediately lead everyone to turn into their true bodies with a crazy crushing attitude. Rushed directly into the Peak Holy Dragon Guardian array, and for a moment, the war between the gods completely broke out in front of everyone. 6,000 gods rushed in, and the scene was not ordinary spectacular. The Peak Holy Dragon Guardian array is not an iron wall. They are subject to certain restrictions, but they can still exert most of their combat power. They can even rush to the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain and directly kill and crush all living beings. Of course they will do this, so the gods must intercept it. At this time, the gods of the living soul tribe show their role. Their plant bodies are very huge, they are all towering trees. They directly take root deep in the ground and form a huge protection. The mountain protects all living beings. The entire peak of the Holy Dragon Mountain has directly turned into a green ocean, almost completely protected, and this basically does not affect their combat effectiveness. When the branches and leaves of the gods of the living beings are connected together, they can form a network and form an indestructible fortress. They can even share power. This is the talent of their living beings. Maybe they can't attack, but they can't defend. Come on, they are very talented. At this time, 2,000 gods were scattered in these trees and jungles, fighting together with the living creatures. If they cooperated with each other, they would be very powerful. At least they faced opponents that were nearly twice their own. It was obvious that they could hold on. Damn it, at least after the war started, the casualties on both sides were completely within the same range. The three peak races did not kill more people as expected. Their own casualties were even more because they were afraid of death, but they met the dragon who was not afraid of death, and the peak dragon clan who was desperate for revenge. This is part of the battlefield, and it is also the largest battlefield. However, everyone knows that the key to determining the outcome of the war lies in the 6 people. Since ancient times, to capture the thief first, capture the king. Once the leader dies in battle, morale will be greatly lost, and the number of people occupying the battlefield will be as long as the advantage is not big. It is entirely possible to equalize it. At this time, the 3 peak battlefields have already started. It was indeed the Void Beast Master who dealt with Zhang Zizai, but the other 2 did not let him go far. He could not take Zhang Zizai far away. He wanted to seize the initiative on Zhang Zizai. The other 2 were watching. Such a close battlefield could affect each other at any time. At this time, Zhang Junjian turned into a white dragon, got the amplification of the peak Holy Dragon Protection Array, and forcibly fought against the Rebirth Soul Master. Zhang Zizai paid a little attention. He knew the most terrifying means of the Rebirth Soul Master in terms of spirit and soul. Zhang Zizai's defense in this regard was not strong, so Zhang Zizai had lent him the Chaos Soul Bell. However, facing such an opponent, it was still quite dangerous, so Zhang Zizai had to fight quickly. He is everyone's hope. The Void Beast Master didn't know that he was stronger than when he defeated the Fantasy Dream Clan. However, he had read all the information about the Void Beast Master, and the Void Beast Master could be said to know nothing about him. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1429. Now, Juxian and Longian are both helping him. Not many people know that one of them is on him and the other is in the Zilong Tower. The strongest means of the Lord of the Void Beast is of course the 5 great heavenly ways. These 5 great heavenly ways are all related to space and are the highest celebrations of space. He is the absolute master of the power of space. He is legendary in the universe, distorting space, establishing the universe, and being omnipotent. Forbidden Heavenly Way. Split Domain Heavenly Way. Endless Heavenly Way. Nothing Heavenly Way. Return to Heavenly Way. These 5 great heavenly ways have different effects. Forbidden Heavenly Way can imprison space, block life within the domain, and form a terrifying oppression. Split Domain Heavenly Way can directly tear the world apart at will. Endless Heavenly Way forms an endless space blade, forming a storm, sweeping the world and tearing everything apart. Nothing Heavenly Way is a bit similar to the Traceless Heavenly Way, but the Nothing Heavenly Way will escape the body into the endless space and walk in the endless space, and outsiders can't find it at all. Returning to the Heavenly Dao, it is to seal off a space, infinitely compress it, shrink the heaven and earth into a point. If the enemy does not escape from it, it will be directly compressed into a point and will not survive at all. This is the Heavenly Dao method of the Void Beast Lord. In addition, the heavenly artifact 3000 God Realms he directly displayed at this moment is also one of the top heavenly artifacts in the Origin Land, and it can be called the supreme among heavenly artifacts. 3000 God Realms, 3,000 worlds, reincarnation suppression, forming a domain to seal off the opponent in these 3,000 god realms. He is the absolute master, who can control the space at will and change unpredictably. Zhang Zizai knows all his methods, so he took the initiative to act. The Void Beast Lord is the kind of person who can grind his opponent to death as long as he enters his rhythm, so what Zhang Zizai has to do is to let him enter his own rhythm directly. Taking the initiative, the ancestral dragon tower exploded directly, with endless destructive power, unfolding the ancestral dragon realm. The ancestral dragon realm is very similar to the 3,000 god realms. When the opponent was completely unfamiliar with the ancestral dragon tower, the 3,000 god realms had not yet controlled Zhang Zizai, and Zhang Zizai directly trapped the opponent in the ancestral dragon realm composed of destructive power. Is this also a spatial method? Are you showing off your skills in front of me? Do you know how to write the word ridiculous, kid? The huge body of the Void Beast Lord wandered in the void. The Void Beast had no fixed body, and he could change anything because he was the space itself. Really? When the opponent unfolded the 3,000 god realms, and then expanded in the ancestral dragon realm, forcibly tore it open with the power of the 5 heavenly Deos, and was about to tear the ancestral dragon realm apart, he suddenly discovered that his 5 heavenly Deo powers were difficult to stretch in this ancestral dragon realm, because the power of the ancestral dragon realm came from the destruction of the heavenly Deo. He knew that Zhang Zizai had killed the Lord of Phantom Heavenly Dreams, but he didn't know that Zhang Zizai was now half as strong as before. He had absorbed 2/5 of the curse of destruction, and now he had absorbed another 1/5. For the top strong men, although the Lord of Phantom Heavenly Dreams was indeed a little weaker in terms of combat power alone, the Lord of Void Beasts was definitely not half as strong as her. The strong suppression of the ancestral dragon realm had surprised the Lord of Void Beasts. Zhang Zizai's strength in this destructive power had completely frightened him. To be honest, Zhang Zizai's power level was similar to that of the 5 great heavenly ways combined. In this case, the heavenly way of destruction restrained everything, and the ancestral dragon tower was much more terrifying than the 3,000 god realms, so he couldn't stop it at all. However, this was Zhang Zizai's rhythm. They didn't fight an unprepared war, and now they were ready. The ancestral dragon tower directly turned into the ancestral dragon sword, a sword of creation, as swift as thunder. Suddenly, the terrifying mixed power of creation and destruction fell from the sky. Buzz. The Void Beast Master knew how terrible it was, and had no intention of fighting. He directly used the 4 heavenly Deos to support the 3,000 god realms to resist, and then he escaped into the Wave heavenly Deo and fled through the void. In this way, it was impossible for Zhang Zizai to kill him. Unfortunately, he still didn't really understand what the Destruction Heavenly Deo was. The real Destruction Heavenly Deo, no matter how mysterious your Heavenly Deo is, whether it is an illusion or escaping into nothingness, can be destroyed. When the 4 heavenly Deos couldn't hold up the sword of creation, the so-called Wave heavenly Deo was instantly hit by the power of creation and destruction, and the Void Beast Master was also exposed at this time. In the image symbol, Zhang Zizai had seen how many fellow dragon gods this person had killed, and even split the space, directly cutting hundreds of thousands of people in half, and he was complacent. His hands were stained with the blood of his compatriots. Facing such a person, Zhang Zizai had only one principle, that is, fast, fierce and accurate, and none of them could be missing. The sword of creation against the heaven tore through the whole body of the void in an instant. The Void Beast Master had already escaped. He had fled thousands of miles in the void, but suddenly, a sword pierced into the void. His body was empty, but it was pierced from head to toe. The power of the 5 heavenly ways on his body actually burned up and turned into ashes at this moment. Being unrighteous to the heavenly way. Shameless and mean, selfish, today you are sentenced to death. Repent and seek rebirth, Zhang Zi's cold voice was deafening at this moment. The Void Beast Master was stunned for a moment, watching his body disappear into smoke, and he was completely stunned. In the last moment of his disappearance, he couldn't react. Dead. He disappeared forever before he got the answer, so he was happy, because he was killed, but he didn't know it himself, because he was already thousands of miles away. What people saw was that the Void Beast Lord escaped, Zhang Zi's sword pierced into the void, and then pulled out, and then, there was no more. No one saw the Void Beast Lord again, even the Soul Lord didn't know he was dead. Just like that, Zhang Zize suddenly had no opponent, and people thought that the Void Beast Lord was hiding in space, and was still preparing to attack him. Unfortunately, Zhang Zize didn't change his expression. He said everything, but suddenly appeared behind the Time Beast Lord, and then grinned. "It's your turn." The Time Beast Lord was shocked, and hurriedly trapped Zhang Zize in the time vortex, and then quickly retreated, roaring at the same time, "Void, what are you doing? If you are afraid, I will deal with him, and the living soul UN Lord will be given to you." Unfortunately, his voice disappeared between heaven and earth, and no one answered him. At the same time, Zhang Zize suddenly got out of his control. The ancestral dragon tower fell from the sky, descended to heaven and earth, and the ancestral dragon realm once again suppressed the Time Beast Lord's head. "You've killed a lot of people, too. So next, you'll die with him," Zhang Zize sneered. "You mean the Void Beast Master is dead? You're bragging like that? Do you think I'm blind?" he sneered. "Okay, keep laughing. Because you won't have time to cry." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1430. This chaotic change of occupation finally came into being. The battle between the 6,000 gods and the defenders of the peak Holy Dragon Mountain was extremely fierce. It was a big melee, earth-shattering, mountains collapsing and cracking, and countless giant beasts covering the sky and the sun were fighting. To be honest, few people really noticed the escape of the Void Beast Master. Even the Time Beast Master, who was so close, thought that he was not dead, and no one knew that their Void Beast Master was dead. At this time, the battle was still fierce, the sky and the stars were broken, and all living things were killed. Zhang Zize appeared on the side of the Time Beast Master, and not many people could see him. Zhang Zize knew better than anyone that whether their peak dragon clan could survive mainly depended on his speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. He had killed the Void Beast Master quickly and ruthlessly. This was the first step to success. Next, the most critical second step: as long as the Time Beast Master died in battle, only the Rebirth Soul Master would be left. How could he turn the world upside down? No matter how strong and weird the Rebirth Soul Master was, he could not face Zhang Zize alone with the three of them. This is the second war in the land of origin, but this time, it is destined to be more tragic than the first time, with more people dying. After all, last time, no existences of the level of Void Beast Master and Fantasy Sky Dream Master died in the battle. Zhang Zize and his uncle, the Living Soul Master, have already communicated with each other. Although the Living Soul Master did not see the details, he knew that since Zhang Zize came here, it meant that the Void Beast Master was dead. Too fast. He and the Time Beast Master had not even warmed up yet. Zhang Zize's destructive power is simply beyond common sense. Just when he came, his ancestral dragon tower had turned into the ancestral dragon realm to suppress. When Zhang Zize launched an attack without saying a word, the Living Soul Master knew that the next step was to cooperate with the fight. If the two of them besieged, it would definitely be safer than Zhang Zize killing the Void Beast Master alone. The 5 great heavenly ways of the Time Beast Master are the Time-Reversing Heavenly Way, the Thunder Heavenly Way, the Immovable Heavenly Way, the Future Heavenly Way, and the Unlimited Heavenly Way. These are the top heavenly ways of time, the heavenly ways that dominate time. The time of all things in the world is under his control. The Lord of Time Beast is the master of time. The heavenly way of reversing time can reverse time, make the past reappear, and even reverse life and death. As long as the people who are killed are in front of him, they may be rescued by reversing time. Just now, the Void Beast was mainly by his side, so he might not die. Zhang Zizai thinks not, because he was killed by the heavenly way of destruction, and the heavenly way of reversing time is absolutely powerless. The heavenly way of thunder is the extreme acceleration, which makes time pass extremely fast. If it is a mortal or an ordinary ancient god, it may reach the end of life in an instant. In front of the Lord of Time Beast, the vicissitudes of life are just a matter of a moment. The heavenly way of immovability is the opposite of the heavenly way of thunder. This is the slowest time until it is completely still. This is the heavenly way of time with the strongest control. He can stop everything of Zhang Zizai completely and let him be slaughtered. The future heavenly way is to trace back to the future, allowing him to predict all dangers and even the outcome of this war. He must have predicted it, but it is obvious that the future heavenly way cannot predict destruction. Therefore, his prediction of the future completely missed the destruction heavenly way, because the power of ordinary heavenly ways cannot reverse the power of destruction at all. Finally, there is the endless heavenly way, which is even more profound. It is said that it can make the heaven and earth universe lose time and only leave space. In this way, all things will stop and become a static world from now on. The power of the endless heavenly way is more terrifying than the immovable heavenly way. The Lord of Time is the most powerful beast of time. He has gone through countless years in the long river of history. He is an alternative between heaven and earth. He is eternal and has existed for too long. When fighting with the Lord of Living Beings, his 5 heavenly ways have very strong restrictions on the Lord of Living Beings, but they are a little worse, because the Lord of Living Beings' heavenly way is the power of life. No matter how long time has passed, life is eternal and immortal, and the Lord of Time cannot really take him down. His top heavenly artifact, the Time Galaxy, had been recovered from the body of the living being Xuanhuan when Zhang Zizai appeared. The Time Galaxy is a huge star chain with countless stars on it. In his hand, it is like a dazzling long whip. Its power is definitely not weaker than the 3,000 divine realms of the Void Beast Lord. These 2 heavenly artifacts are the strongest heavenly artifacts in the history of time and space. They are the birth of heaven and earth and have been passed down through the ages. They are the foundation of their peak race. The Time Beast Lord was waving the Time Galaxy. At this time, the ancestral dragon realm suppressed him. He was very uncomfortable. For the first time, he realized that Zhang Zizai's ability was so terrible. Void, he was still shouting angrily. The Void Beast Lord was fleeing now. Isn't this killing someone with a borrowed knife? But he shouted, and the Void Beast Lord would not respond. He knew that if he continued to be besieged like this, it would be troublesome. If you avoid fighting first, I can do the same. He thought that the Void Beast Lord was temporarily escaping, so there was no need for him to continue fighting. His immovable heavenly Dao power swept out directly, and in the sweep of the Time Galaxy, everything about Zhang Zizai and the living beings Xuanhuan was frozen, making them unable to move. You want to sneak attack and kill me? Dream on. Unless you don't need time. The Time Beast Lord stabilized them and still endured the huge suppression of the ancestral dragon realm. He was ready to leave, but in the next moment, he suddenly found that in Zhang Zizai's power, his immovable heavenly Dao actually melted directly, and he and the living beings Xuanhuan escaped from it. Life-restricted area. The heavenly artifacts of the living beings exploded at the same time. Countless jungles appeared in the void. Countless vines and branches blocked the way of the Time Beast Lord. The power of the 5 heavenly ways gathered in these vines, making them almost all become heavenly artifacts, and then madly attacked the Time Beast Lord. How is it possible? The Time Beast Lord was still immersed in the shock of Zhang Zizai's destruction of the unmovable heavenly way. Next, all his heavenly power exploded madly under the support of the heavenly artifact of Time Galaxy, and all of them attacked Zhang Zizai. In front of him, when the Zilong realm had completely enveloped the opponent, Zhang Zizai said nothing, holding the changed Zilong sword, suddenly killing, and the sword soared into the sky. In an instant, the sword of creation had killed the Time Beast Lord in front of him. The power of the sword was increased again compared to before. It was increased to the extreme. When the power of creation and destruction exploded at the same time, the impact destroyed the world. The Lord of Time Beast had never expected that the 5 heavenly paths that he was most confident in, even the most powerful heavenly path of infernal affairs, would completely collapse in front of Zhang Zizai. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1431. His power seemed to be a real nemesis, crushing everything: time vortex, time stasis, reverse time, loss of time and other abilities, all invalid, originally out of the ordinary heavenly way, but in front of Zhang Zizai, just like the Void Beast Lord's view heavenly way, even if he escaped, he could not escape the power of destruction. That sword destroyed everything, but the Time Beast Lord was shocked, and was actually controlled by the living being UN Lord. His 5 heavenly ways were still very powerful if they bound the enemy. The Time Beast Lord couldn't hide at all. He almost opened his eyes and watched Zhang Zizai split the Time Galaxy, and the next sword directly pierced his body. He was not so scared, and directly reversed time, wanting to return to before he was injured. His time power could pull out all the weapons that pierced his body, but this time there was an accident. In front of the destructive power, the time-reversing heavenly way collapsed directly, and there was no possibility at all, reversing time, reversing life and death. Ah, the Lord of Time Beast couldn't believe it. He stared at all this in a daze, staring at the power of destruction instantly penetrating his body, destroying his heavenly Deo, destroying his body, destroying everything about him. Void, save me, he shouted in horror. It was already this time, and the Lord of Void Beast hadn't appeared yet. He always thought that he was very likely hiding nearby. He can't save you, you will meet him soon. He died before you. I killed him. Zhang Zizai raised his head and grinned. It was this smile that made the Lord of Time Beast shudder in despair. He was really terrified, because his eternal life was dissipating under the terrible power of destroying heavenly Deo. In an instant, he would disappear from this world forever. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Destruction. Perhaps at this time, he realized how terrible the flower of destruction was. How difficult it would be to deal with someone who has mastered the flower of destruction. But it was too late. In the next moment, he really disappeared. And he was different from the Lord of the Void Beast. His death in battle was seen by many people between heaven and earth. His body was still suspended between heaven and earth, but it was riddled with holes and completely lost the breath of life. The ownerless state of his heavenly artifact was the best proof. At the same time, Zhang Zizai even took out the 3,000 god realms. When many people were already stunned by the scene in the battle, his voice suddenly spread all over the world. Everyone, the Lord of Time Beast and the Lord of Void Beast have died in battle. They paid the price for their former cruelty and shamelessness. If you don't believe it, the bodies are here. Everyone is welcome to come for autopsy. His voice was very calm, as if he was talking about something insignificant. But in fact, the passion for revenge has made him boil all over. So far, he has succeeded for the most part. Of course, the delay has caused blood to flow on the ground, especially countless sentient beings have been implicated and lost their lives. This war was even more brutal than the last one. Fortunately, he killed the 2 leaders first, otherwise, If it took too long, the peak Holy Dragon Mountain would not be able to hold on, and the gods of the two tribes would probably be killed or injured. Zhang Zizai watched the earth shaking and the countless dragons killing with red eyes, and saw their passion for revenge and determination to survive. They were really a tribe that was not easy to surrender. Although there were many casualties so far, they also gave the other side a heavy enough blow. He saw countless people facing death, fighting with their lives, and protecting their homes and loved ones. At this time, life and death are nothing. He admires everyone. So, he did it. The death of the Time Beast Master and the Void Beast Master, when his words spread throughout the world, immediately brought a super earthquake that shook the world. Everyone was stunned. They stared at Zhang Zizai in a daze, at everything in his hands. They called out to the two, but there would be no response. Their bodies had already appeared. It was clear that the two Time Masters who had once been glorious had really died in battle. They died faster than anyone else. I'll go help your brother first. The two of us can kill the Soul Master of the past life. You are in charge of the overall situation. Don't let us have any more casualties. After the living Soul Master finished speaking, he immediately went to help Zhang Junjian. Now Zhang Junjian can still hold on, but the living beings are about to fail. In order to destroy the Peak Holy Dragon Protection Formation, the goal of these 6,000 gods is to kill all living beings and slaughter all living beings, so they are very vicious. More than 3,000 gods fought to resist, and finally they were able to hold on, but it was also very difficult to hold on, because all living beings are too weak. The other side has many people. If they miss one, they can kill countless fresh lives. This is war, it's really not a joke. But what Zhang Zizai did was to take down the other marshal's head shortly after the war started. When he showed the bodies of the two masters, at least the gods of the Time Beast clan and the Void Beast clan were stunned for a moment. This was the most unbelievable thing in their lives, but it really appeared before their eyes. Their pillars died in the battle. What's the point of winning this war? Because they can't get the flower of destruction at all. The battlefield of the entire Peak Holy Dragon Mountain almost stopped, and many gods were completely stunned, their minds were blank, and they looked at Zhang Zizai in a daze. It's a bit ridiculous. This means that after the destruction, it has nothing to do with your two clans. The head is dead, what's the point of you fighting here? Your two clans are destined to be destroyed. Of course, the life of the Soul Master of the Rebirth is almost over. Originally, he wanted to deal with the Soul Master of the Rebirth first, but the Soul Master of the Rebirth was the only one left, and he should not be able to do anything. The Master of the Living Spirits had already gone to help. The key is that these gods have caused a lot of destruction now, and Zhang Zizai must quickly get rid of them. Everyone, no matter what happens, there is no room. They will not let us go, and we should not let them go. Fight. At such a desperate moment, there are still people inciting fighting. On a small part of the battlefield, the war broke out again. Some people were like crazy, wanting to avenge the two masters. Okay, I've made a choice, so I have plenty of time now. I'll send one of you to die. Zhang Zizai's voice echoed back to the world again. He is so powerful now that he can kill even the 4th level of the God realm with one sword, absolutely without any drag. So, in the midst of people's shocked and terrified gazes, Zhang Zizai joined the battlefield. He directly locked onto a powerful Taisha Tianshen realm master from the Rebirth Soul clan, who appeared before him. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1432. Before the other party reacted, with a puff, Zhang Zizai's long sword pierced through his body, and the power of destruction penetrated, destroying his heavenly way and flesh and blood. This kind of use not only did not consume, but the destructive power was stronger and more terrifying. He was still growing infinitely. This was the most terrifying Zhang Zizai. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Next he had a cold expression and wandered among the 6,000 gods. There were too many 6,000 gods, but the key was that there were not so many gods in the Taisha realm. The three tribes added up to less than 10. Zhang Zizai stared at them. These gods in the fourth level of the realm had brought countless damage to the Peak Dragon clan. Today, they were also the main culprits who caused the bloodshed in the Peak Shenlong mountain. Zhang Zizai was already bloodthirsty. Wherever he went, there were corpses. Next. Next. His voice overwhelmed the war, echoing between heaven and earth. When the gods fell at his feet without any resistance, the entire team of gods changed quietly. Puff. The last god of the Time Beast clan, the fourth level, died in his hands. Next is the turn of the Taishi Tianshen realm, a total of more than 300 people. I will kill them slowly, one by one. Don't worry, line up, you all have to die, hee hee. Zhang Zizai was like a devil at this moment, he was simply a nightmare. When his voice swept again, when all the corpses of the Taisha Tianshen realm were thrown into the air by him and lined up together, when the soul masters of the deceased seemed to be suppressed, anyone who was alive would have endless fear at this time. Defeated, /. We lost. The flower of destruction is too terrible, too terrible. Run away, if you don't leave now, when will you leave? When the first person escapes, when a person collapses, it is the beginning. For a while, the remaining 5,000 gods, mainly the Time Beast clan and the Void Beast clan, began to flee frantically. They could not care about anything. Now they were leaderless and no one cared about their escape, because they were the same as the Fantasy Sky Dream clan. The strongest in their clan was only the third level of the God of Heaven. What kind of peak race was this? No one cared. Why didn't they escape? Waiting to die here? They were already scared. Basically, the people of the Time Beast clan and the Void Beast clan scattered, and Zhang Zizai did not intercept them. Of course, he wanted to minimize the casualties of all living beings now, because they had already controlled the initiative of the battle. If they escaped, the death of all living beings would be less. Of course, as for the sins they had committed, the Peak Dragon clan remembered them clearly, and anyone who killed someone would never escape. The land of origin is so big. When they kill the Soul Master of the Rebirth and revive the Peak Dragon clan, none of these people will think of leaving, because they can't even go to the 49 divine realms. The passage is in Zhang Zizai's hands. For a while, less than 2,000 of the 6,000 gods fled, mainly from the Rebirth Soul clan, and there were still more than 3,000 gods from the two major clans. When the opponents were reduced in an instant, the remaining ones just didn't dare to escape. When they were afraid in their hearts, it was much easier to deal with them. Moreover, their strong men were completely killed by Zhang Zizai. The remaining ones were all gods of the first and second levels. Zhang Zizai saw that there were less than 100 gods of the third level in the Rebirth Soul clan, so he accelerated and killed them directly. These people couldn't be blocked by a sword, and died on the spot with a puff. It's time to counterattack. They all knew clearly who had blood on their hands. This was the time for revenge, the time of dreaming. The gods of the Living Spirit Yuan clan helped them, and the gods of the Peak Dragon clan directly rose up. Just now, the opponent had more people, and they were too frustrated to kill. One person was besieged by two people, and now it was their turn to besiege the opponent. Basically, two people killed one person, which was not easy. When the gods of the Rebirth Soul clan collapsed completely, some of them began to flee. Although the Rebirth Soul Master was still there, he obviously couldn't take care of this side, so no one cared about it anymore. They fled in different directions. Those who were lucky could escape, and those who were unlucky died on the spot in the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain. All their resources fell into the Peak Holy Dragon Mountain. I believe that countless years later, there will be young people from the Peak Dragon clan who will get their divine tools and treasures. It seems that this war is nearing its end. The living spirit Yuan clan of the Peak Dragon clan won a great victory. The number of gods who escaped is about 4,000. They didn't dare to stay here at all. They fled directly in different directions, miserable and scattered. Some people resisted with blood, but they couldn't hold on for long. Seeing the great victory, the sentient beings of the Peak Dragon clan felt more turbulent in their hearts. For a time, all the power gathered on Zhang Junjian's side. Zhang Zizai took a look and it seemed that the Rebirth Soul Master couldn't withstand the attack of him and the Living Spirit Yuan Master. It seemed that they had already won this fateful war of origin. Zhang Zizai had become the one who turned everything around. His destructive power was too strong. Now, 3 of the 4 masters who had brought disaster had died, leaving only the strongest Soul Master. Zhang Zizai did not let his guard down. To be honest, he was very nervous today. He would not relax until the Soul Master died. After all, he had already forced the other party into a dead end. If he was not killed, he could still bring disaster to all living beings. This was the time to be more careful. He must not let the other party find a chance to turn the tables. Ruo Hua, Zhang Yunfan, and Zhang Yunyan were in charge of the overall situation here. Zhang Zizai rushed into the void without saying a word, rushed out of the clouds, holding the ancestral dragon sword, and killed directly. Together with Zhang Junjian and the living soul master, they dealt with the souls of the dead. Lord, now it's 3 against 1. Zhang Zizai alone may be stronger than the opponent. It seems that the deceased soul master has no chance of winning. It's over. Zhang Junjian, who had just suppressed the deceased soul master, said when he saw Zhang Zizai arriving. They can suppress each other now, but they lack the means to kill them completely. Let Zhang Zizai say that. The 3 of them surrounded him from 3 directions, leaving the deceased soul master with no way to escape. After Zhang Zizai arrived, the deceased soul master squinted his eyes and looked at him. He seemed to be talking in his sleep and murmured, "It's really interesting." Zhang Yunting really had a whim. He actually used a mortal to do this experiment and let you inherit the flower of destruction as a totem. He is really smart, beyond my understanding, and from the looks of it, he almost succeeded. As expected, he was the deceased soul master. One look at Zhang Zizai, and he could actually know so much. It's useless to say so much. You have already lost. When you die, this place of origin will be completely clean, Zhang Zizai said. This time they took the initiative to come back for revenge. Although they were passive in the middle, they took the initiative most of the time and took some risks, but at least now the facts have proved that they succeeded. It's a pity that I can't die. You guys underestimate me too much, Zhang Zizai. I've been waiting for you to come. The soul master of the past life suddenly smiled. It is said that this guy is very cunning and difficult to deal with, and he is also very difficult to deal with now. See through.